We've been talking about cooperating with peers, but there's another kind of cooperation that deals with those in authority. We need to take the time to understand cooperating with authority because that's how most kids get in trouble at school.
In order to understand cooperating with authority, we first have to understand exactly what authority is, how it works, and what it looks like at Hake or any other school.
Authority basically means the person or people in charge, or better yet, the person or people responsible for something. A fancy word to describe the people in charge of various public parts of our society is our government. Since a public school is a government institution, the type of government will decide how the school is run.
There are two main types of governments. There are governments where one person has all of the power, called an autocracy. Those used to be characterized by kings, queens, and emperors. Now it's mostly dictators. The other main type is a democracy, where in theory, all of the people have the power. Usually in a democracy, people are chosen for responsibilities by elections, and decisions are made by voting. Democracies are complicated though. It's hard enough for a room full of people to agree about what they want on a pizza, much less for a country full of people to decide whether or not to have universal health care or to go to war. Also, people have to know what's going on to participate, and there are so many laws being passed, sometimes it's hard to keep up.
In our democracy, the law is the source of all authority. So anyone with any authority only has power that falls within the laws. Even though someone might have a lot of authority within the government, like the president or a congressperson, it doesn't mean they can break the law. Exactly who is in charge of what in our country is described in our Constitution. It explains how the presidency works, Congress, the courts, all of that. But in the Constitution of the United States, there is no mention of schools or education. There is, however, the 10th Amendment, which says, basically, if it's not outlined here, states are in charge of it. So authority for and in public schools is given to states. In most states, including Missouri, that authority is given to a state board of education, who then gives the authority to local school districts, one of those being the Rittner School District. And now for a short break.
Now what's all this have to do with us? The citizens of the Rittner School District elect the board, which then hires people to run the schools, starting with the superintendent and associate superintendents. They then hire all the people needed to run a school district, including principals, teachers, counselors, nurses, office professionals, cafe workers, the maintenance team, coaches, computer techies, librarians, school resource officers, social workers, bus drivers, plumbers, electricians, landscapers, dog trainers. Okay, I was just making sure you were paying attention.
Every one of these people is hired, is given a responsibility, and with all the responsibility is granted authority to go with it. The bigger the responsibility, the bigger the authority. Even kids have responsibility, and therefore some authority, but not near as much as their parents, or their teachers, or any other adult working for the school for that matter. In fact, kids, most of the time, are only responsible for themselves and their stuff. Parents are responsible for their kids, all of their stuff, and all of their decisions. Teachers are responsible for all of the kids in their class and all the stuff in their classroom. Principals are responsible for all the kids, all the stuff, and all the adults working in their school. Superintendent is responsible for all the schools, plus everyone and everything in them. That brings us all the way back to cooperation. Remember, the goal in school is to learn and prepare for the future. When you don't cooperate with someone in authority in a public school, you do two things. Number one, you are standing in the way of learning and preparing for the future for everyone in the class. And number two, you are standing against everyone voting citizen in your community because in a democracy, the people share the power.
Now, in an autocratic country, not cooperating will probably get you locked up, if you are lucky. It might just get you executed. But not cooperating with authority in the U.S. will rarely get you killed. In fact, in schools, response to an uncooperative student usually boils down to one of two things. You get kicked out, or you have to stay longer. Relatively speaking, those aren't the worst of consequences. But you still don't want those things to happen. You can't get kicked out if you want to have any success in this country. Because, well, you need an education for just about everything worth doing. And as far as staying after school goes, staying after is fine, but you don't want it to be in a room where you are being forced to answer questions about your dumb decisions for an hour and a half.
Believe it or not, most kids who get in trouble for not cooperating don't do so on purpose. So here's a quick how to cooperate in every situation guide.
Follow directions the first time they are given. Many students get into trouble because when they're given an instruction, they take their sweet time doing it. Kids often get into trouble for this at home, too. The problem at school is that there are, in most cases, only about 40 minutes in the class period. You could potentially steal several minutes of learning from each of your classmates, which add up to several weeks of learning over the course of a school year, every time you are asked to do something, and then moan and groan about it instead of just getting it done.
Follow directions first, ask questions after. The instruction given by people in authority are often annoying, but since they are responsible for more than you are, they may be thinking about things you haven't considered. If you really want to know why they asked you to do something because you thought it was unfair, or you thought they didn't have all of the information, ask about it, but do what they told you to do first. If you have to, come back after class and ask.
If you still can't get an answer, get a person you trust with more authority than you to help. A teacher, counselor, principal, or parent. Never try to force the issue on your own, and never ever force the issue during class time. Also, your best friend, no matter how smart they are, probably has no more authority than you, so getting them to help likely won't get you very far. You'll probably need an adult in this spot.
This one you only use in case of emergencies. If you choose to not cooperate, be prepared for the consequences. Having authority doesn't make you smart, and it doesn't make you right. It just makes you responsible for more. That means your teachers, parents, and coaches can and do get it wrong. A lot. But if they do, following steps 1 through 3 will usually take care of it. Occasionally it doesn't, though, and you will sometimes have to take a stand for what you believe is right, but doing so comes at a cost. That's a lesson unto itself, so we'll have to discuss it another time. I can tell you this, though. Most kids get in trouble at step 4 only because they skip steps 1 through 3. Don't skip steps.